Thanks for joining me. As you may recall, on one of my previous reflections, I mentioned about one of my family members who was currently going through some health challenges, and over the course of the last few days, those health challenges it's become apparent to me that those health challenges are significantly more severe than I may have taken them to be in the first instance. And so, with almost immediate effect, with effect from tomorrow, I find myself getting on an aeroplane and embarking upon a journey halfway across the world to go and put myself in a situation to take care of my dad as best as I can. And I don't know what condition I'll find him in, and I don't know what condition I'll find the culture in, because it's not something I've ever experienced before. So although I'm reasonably well accustomed to the unknown, there's degrees there's degrees of exposure, and you might think, given the circumstances, I should perhaps be responding with a bit more seriousness, but is that really what these kind of situations call for, or do they call for us to bring forth the best of ourselves and the most resourceful elements of ourselves so that we can serve the people in need to the best of our ability? And I would say that's how I perceive things. And so whilst I am in equal parts apprehensive, terrified, and curious about what to expect in many ways, I feel I have a duty to myself to continue these reflections, because in part I found some tremendous value in listening to myself and listening to things coming out of me that I may not have consciously said or even thought a great deal of the time. And so whether it continues to provide value for you as a viewer is, of course, important. I think it's important to me to remind people that all of us are capable of so much more than we give ourselves credit for, including you. That for my own development, for my own stability, and for my own grounding, it's important to me as well to make sure that continues. And I think something really valuable is going to come out of that. Not without its own challenges, of course. And I anticipate there will be many challenges I have no point of reference for. And of course it would be my preference for things to be slightly more convenient, but that's not the case. And I'm in a position where I don't have that choice. And so I've taken it upon myself to go on that journey and to embark upon that trip. And maybe that symbolizes more things than what I realize it does at the moment. And we'll discover that as time goes on. But for now, I think the important thing is to say that complacency is an invitation for challenge. Because complacency is just our way of saying to ourselves, I have everything figured out and I'm just going to get used to this routine. And then all of a sudden something comes along and the routine is disrupted or destroyed. Sometimes in ways which we actually gain from immediately, and other times we gain from in hindsight with a bit of reflection after some challenge. And I see this as an invitation to grow. Into what? I'm not so sure. But hardship is one of those things, especially when it concerns people that we love, and especially when it has a degree of finality involved. It's something that many of us, we either suppress it and bury it and hide it behind some apparent sense of strength, or we medicate it and we run away from it as much as we can, or we allow it to to gain control over us, and no situation has the power to control us. And it doesn't mean that we become uncaring, it just means that we accept our resourcefulness in the moment, and we strive to the best of our ability to remain resourceful. But if our resourcefulness appears to be compromised, then sometimes the best thing we can do is to remove ourselves from the situation. As selfish as that may seem, if we don't put the oxygen mask on ourselves, as I mentioned before, and I'm sure you've heard the analogy in other places, then what happens is we end up with an empty tank, and we can't help anybody with an empty tank. So, here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow I fly halfway across the world, and there'll be a lag of some description before you see the effects of that, but I'll endeavour for my own purposes to continue this series of reflections so that you can see maybe that there's more possible for you in the face of hardship than what you give yourself credit for. And I know that so many of us in the world are going through hardship of different forms, whether it's jobs, whether it's relationships, whether it's health, whether it's finances, whether it's a combination of all of those things or something else. How we relate to our circumstances determines to a large degree the amount of resourcefulness that we have to move beyond them or to respond to the needs of the moment constructively. And the value of giving ourselves space for new perspectives to arise, is that we find sometimes that we do have more constructive ways of handling what's in front of us than otherwise would have seemed possible. And that we can respond to what's going on perhaps without a degree of emotional reactiveness that can sometimes cause more harm than good. So, if the things that you have found in this channel so far have been of value to you, then I would encourage you to keep watching, because what's to come will be different but the same. And if this is the first video for you, then I would encourage you to go back and watch some of the other stuff, because you may find that it puts this into perspective. But I find it somewhat ironic that this is the situation I find myself in, and that's okay. As always, if there's value in these words or there's value in this space, then please let me know, because by letting me know, you're telling that machine that's between us that someone else out there may be able to benefit from what's going on here, and I'd sincerely like that to be the case to the best of my ability. So, until the next time, I appreciate your attention as always, and thank you for watching, and I wish you all well. And see you on the other side of the world.